You ever notice how some people act like the world just naturally belongs to them? Like their name's already stamped on everything they set eyes on, even if technically it's yours? Yeah, let me tell you a story about what happens when folks like that pick the wrong hill to die on. First, I should probably tell you who I am. My name's Nicholas, but most folks around here just call me Nick. For a long time, I was the invisible man, the quiet type, happy to keep to himself, never looking for trouble. Build a little life for myself out here, tucked just above a pretty neighborhood called Whispering Pines. Thing is, I was the guy who actually built that neighborhood, start to finish laid out the parks, funded the pool, made sure every house had a slice of that postcard view. Did it all quietly because I never wanted my name carved on a plaque. Just wanted to see it done right, you know? After all that, I set aside a patch of land for myself a little bit up the hill, nothing grand, just a spot where I could breathe, grill a steak, watch the sun go down. That was my retreat, my safe zone. Only, in this world, safe doesn't last forever. The first sign of trouble came in an envelope. I remember the feel of ithic, expensive, like it was holding something important. Logo on the flap, all official and smug. Whispering Pines Homeowners Association. Yeah, those words alone could curdle your morning coffee. I grinned, thinking maybe they just wanted to thank me for the wildflowers blooming by the mailbox. But when I opened it, it was an invitation, except the kind you're not really allowed to decline. Dear neighbor, please join the HOA for harmony and community standards, all that honeyed nonsense. I laughed, shook my head, and tossed it. Thought that was the end. But you know, with people like this, it's never the end. Next trip up to my cottage, there's a stack of letters in the mailbox. Each one a little more insistent, like a bill collector with something to prove. The first, a reminder. The second, not so subtly pointing out all the perks I could lose access to perks I'd literally paid to create. Mind you. By the third, the gloves were off. If I didn't join, unwanted legal entanglements could be in my future. I stared at those words for a long second, let them roll around in my head. That's when the anger started to smolder. It wasn't the threat itself. It was the idea that someone who knew nothing about me, nothing about what I'd done for this place, thought they could push me around with their paper kingdom and their made-up rules. So I ignored him, carried on as usual until one night, over the sound of a steak sizzling on the grill, I heard a buzzing overhead. Looked up, and there was a little drone hovering, its camera pointed right at my land. That was new. I set my tongs down, wiped my hands, and just watched. Not subtle, not even trying to be. Then headlights. A black SUV, glossy and overconfident, pulls up right to my gate. Out steps Karen Baker, a president herself, heels sinking into the dirt, clipboard hugged to her chest like a suit of armor. You know the type. She was all sharp edges and perfect hair, walking like the world owed her an apology. She rapped on the gate, voice all business. Good evening. I'm Karen Baker, president of the Whispering Pines HOA. She looked me up and down like she was measuring me for a casket. We noticed your property is quite close to the community border. It's in everyone's best interest if you join the HOA. For harmony. I laughed, just a soft one. Not interested, I said. Not part of your association. Never have been. Never will be. And I swear, her smile cracked a little, right there in the dusk. Her tone got sharper. You really ought to reconsider. Would be a shame if misunderstandings created problems for everyone. Right about then, I leaned my elbow on the gate, gave her my best. I got nowhere to be look. Appreciate the concern, but I like my problems simple. She spun around, stomped off, tires spitting gravel all the way down the road. That's when I realized this wasn't going to end with letters or polite invitations. This was a turf war, and the other side didn't know who they were up against. Next time she came, she brought back up to polo shirt muscle men straight out of a discount action movie. They tried to loom over the fence while Karen waved a stack of official papers at me. Refusing HOA membership is now a violation under our expanded boundary ordinances, she declared, like she was reading scripture. I raised an eyebrow. Got a judge's signature on that? Or did you just doodle it on the back of a napkin? The muscle twitched. Karen's face twitched harder. She tried her best to play hardball threats of legal action, civil proceedings, community, standards going down the drain if I didn't comply. I almost wanted to laugh, except I was too busy wondering how long she could keep this circus act up before someone got hurt. Here's the thing, though. I'm not the kind of guy who waits around to get steamrolled. I got in touch with my attorney, Michael. Guy's got a mind like a steel trap and a nose for dirty tricks. He poked around, did a little digging. What he found was honestly not surprising. Karen hadn't just bullied her way in a HOA president-sished, basically staged a coup. Pushed out the old board, stacked it with cronies. Anyone who pushed back got fined, harassed, or run out of town. Dues had shot through the roof. Meanwhile, the money was vanishing into board retreats and security expenses. Neighbors were miserable, trapped in their own homes by a woman who thought rules were her personal weapons. I started collecting stories. Folks opened UPA, young couple nearly bankrupt from paint color violations. An old widow hounded for her non-standard mailbox. Kids fined for lemonade stands. It was insane. This wasn't about community. This was about power or power. Then the fun started. I was at the cottage one afternoon when I saw the telltale flash of police lights coming up my drive. Only the cruiser was too clean, the cop too stiff-like he'd been rehearsing in front of the mirror. He brandished a folded map, said something about expanded HOA jurisdiction. Karen, standing beside him, was smirking like a villain in a cheap movie. The cop threatened to arrest me if I didn't sign my property over right then and there. I played along, feigned confusion, asked to read the papers. Michael, hiding inside, was already calling the real sheriff. I dragged out the performance. Let them get impatient. When the real sirens came wailing up the driveway, two cruisers, dust flying, a fake cop froze. Deputies spilled out, weapons at the ready, and just like that, Karen and her little helper were in cuffs. You should have seen her face, pure disbelief, like nobody had ever said no to her before. Turns out, the fake cop wasn't even her first offense. Deputies swarmed the HOA office. More arrests followed, board members charged with fraud, conspiracy, harassment, you name it. News vans rolled in. Neighbors finally poked their heads out of hiding. Suddenly, Karen wasn't so scary. During the trial, the stories came pouring out, people who'd been bullied, fined, threatened. Karen's lawyer tried to paint her as a misunderstood leader, but the evidence crushed every excuse. Guilty on all counts. Prison time, heavy fines, restitution to the folks she'd hurt. After it was over, Whispering Pines started to breathe again. Laughter returned. Kids played on the streets. Neighbors waved to each other, unafraid for the first time in years. I stayed up at my cottage, watching it all from my porch, letting the quiet soak in. For once, it didn't feel like hiding. It felt like coming home. The new board's real neighbors this time. Not Karen's hand-picked army asked me to come down, just once to say a few words at a meeting. I almost said no, but I went. Stood in front of those faces, some I'd known for years, some I'd built houses for, all of them waiting. My name's Nicholas, I said. I built this place because I wanted it to be a home. Not a weapon, not a prison, just a place where folks could live decent, honest lives. I told them I never wanted credit, just wanted them to remember what matters. Community, respect, standing up when someone tries to take that away. There was this long, quiet pause. Then the applause rolled in, warm and real. That's when I realized sometimes, just sometimes, standing your ground isn't about winning. It's about reminding people where the lines are, and that sometimes those lines are worth defending, even if it means going to war with a paper tyrant and her cardboard army. So, that's how the neighborhood war ended. Karen in orange, her cronies scattered, the folks of Whispering Pines finally free. The air felt lighter. The laughter sounded sweeter. Maybe it's cheesy, but I'd like to think my grandfather would have been proud. Now, every evening I sit out on the porch. The light goes gold through the pines. There's a peace in knowing I never back down, never let someone else write the story of my land, my life. But as much as it feels like justice, I still wonder how many Karens are out there, right now, dreaming up new ways to rule over people who just want to be left alone. And how many folks keep their heads down, too scared to fight back. So, here's my question for you. Where's the line, in your book? When does standing up for yourself become worth it? And what would you do if someone tried to take what's yours by force, by law, or just by thinking you're too small to matter? I'd love to hear your stories, times you fought back, or maybe times you wish you had. Let's talk about it. Because sometimes just telling the story is the first step to making sure it never happens again.
Cảm ơn tất cả các bạn đã xem video.